intervention, elle se fera en anglais. Il s'agit d'Ekster, où comment cette entreprise direct-to-consumer, fondée en Europe, a connu une croissance exponentielle aux États-Unis. J'invite à me rejoindre Olivier Moma et Tom Vanderkolk, tous les deux d'Ekster, à me rejoindre. Olivier, Tom, floor is yours.
Thank you.
Test. All right, cool. We're live.
All right.
Bonjour, Paris. Comment ça va? No, I'm kidding. We're not gonna speak in French. We're gonna speak in English. Great to be here. Before we start, I would like to see a raise of hands. Whom of you is doing business in the United States? Anyone? All right. That's quite a few. If you haven't raised your hand, the United States is a billion-dollar business for almost any potential business case. And if you haven't tapped into the United States market yet, but you have a successful business in the EU, we might change your mind. But maybe a better question to ask would be, whom of you is trying to conquer a new market? Because that's what this talk is going to be about. We're going to show you the strategies that we've been using over the past few years to become one of the largest wallet brands in the United States. And we're going to show you how you can use them for your business as well. But before we do, you need to understand how it all began.
6 years ago, my co-founder and I asked ourselves a question. Why are people still using fat bifold wallets? How come the phone evolved, but the wallet has always stayed the same? We had an idea. We were going to create the next generation wallet. But the problem was we were just 22 years old, and no factory would work with us. We also didn't have the money to convince them otherwise. So we decided to take it into our own hands. We launched our first Kickstarter campaign, and it was a blazing success in the first year. We sold thousands of products and were featured in the biggest press outlets in the US. However, this also meant we needed to start a real business. And with limited resources, a tiny team, and no formal business experience, we knew that we needed to focus on just one market. The logical step was to go for the Netherlands. We were based in Rotterdam at the time. But we decided, let's go big or go home. So we went for the US. Why would a small Dutch startup want to launch in the USA?
Yes, so besides the fact that we had kind of a lot of customers from our Kickstarter campaign in America, there's actually 4 more reasons why we thought the United States was interesting. First of all, I don't need to tell you it's a large market. But what's super handy for a small bootstrapped company is that it's a large market where everyone speaks the same language. So we didn't have to localize our ads, we didn't really have to localize our website, and we could use one fulfillment center to send our products to all the customers in the United States. The second reason is that the United States has the highest penetration of e-commerce sales in the world, with about 19%. I think France is around 13%, so that's a huge difference. Then thirdly, we're Dutch, and apparently Dutch people are greedy. And that's maybe why we find that people in the United States are willing to pay more for premium brands and premium products. And lastly, if we sell a wallet in the United States for $100, we actually get $100. If we sell a wallet for 100 euros in Europe, then we only get 80 euros because we have to pay the VAT. So now, we started off in the United States, and to be honest, the beginning was quite rough. We had lots of issues, production issues, shipment issues. We had more negative reviews than positive ones, and we had no clue what we were doing when it came to digital marketing. But over the last 4 years, we kind of started working on a strategy, and this strategy is built up on 4 pillars. And let's start off with the first one, relentless tracking. Tracking in itself is quite boring. That's why we put relentless in front of it to make it sound cool. But relentless tracking means that every dollar that we spend on marketing is tracked. Every dollar that we spend needs to bring back $2 in return, at least. And this strategy was working very well for us, up until Apple decided that people needed more privacy. And iOS 14 was a fact. Every morning when we went to the office, our eyes were bleeding because all the ads that were driving our growth were unprofitable from one day to the next. And the positive thing about iOS 14 was that it taught us that we couldn't rely only on Facebook ads or Google ads or any other channel that we were using. We needed a neutral third-party platform that actually told us and helped us with attributing value and revenue towards all the different channels, campaigns, and ads that we were running. And from the moment that we actually started using one of these platforms, our growth continued. Just to give you a quick example what it does, if, for example, one customer clicks on a TikTok ad and then clicks on a Google ad, then both TikTok and Google think they actually drove 100% of the revenue. So then if you combine it, you have 200%, where actually it's just one sale. So the attribution platform helps you with giving 50% to TikTok and 50% to Google. If you're not using an attribution tool yet, I urge you to do so because it's a lifesaver and really helped us. You probably do this as well already, but always ask your customers, where did they hear first from you in a post-purchase survey? So now we have our first pillar, relentless tracking. Let's move on to the next.
Content is king. We found out about this a few years back. If you guys are doing performance marketing, you probably know that the only way to grow is to find winning ads. And the only way to find winning ads is to test enough creatives. However, what you probably don't know is the scale at which this needs to happen. We found this out when we took our content team in-house. We hired a head of content, 2 graphic designers, 2 videographers, and 30 freelance content creators. We are now testing over 200 pieces of ads and contents every single week. We scaled up this production, and it made a world of a difference for our performance. But what we also found out is that we need to spend at least 20% of our budget on testing. Because, as I said, if you don't find these winning content pieces, you're not going to be able to scale further. So make sure you reserve that budget and spend enough on testing. Now let's look at some content that really worked. And I know what you're thinking. Super ugly. Definitely not on brand. I agree with you, but this stuff really works. You only have a few microseconds to grab the attention of the customer. When he's scrolling through his feed, you're competing with thousands of different brands. And we tried everything. We burned wallets, we drove over them, we drilled through them. We're just trying to do anything to grab that first microsecond of attention of this customer. And once again, this stuff works. Now, the second one, kind of related to the first one, the purple cow theory. So our best sellers are brown and black wallets. However, our ads are usually super colorful wallets, which is strange because you think that you want to sell the products that are best sellers. But what we've seen is that if you create a piece of content that is remarkable and jumps out from the rest, it will stick with the customer and people will click on it quicker. This ad was a wallet that we weren't really selling at the time. But we did release it because we thought maybe it'll grab some attention. And it also led to a lot of discussions in the comments because people actually wanted to buy it, but they couldn't find it on the website. Which brings me to my second point. For the people that had a close eye, you can see that there's a little spelling mistake in the ad. Well, the grammar police saw this, and a huge discussion broke out in the comments of this ad, which made the ad perform even better. The reason being, Facebook's algorithm says that the more engagement on your ads means the more reach your ad will get. So I'm not telling you guys to all put spelling mistakes in your ads, but there's definitely some source of truth there. And lastly, going all the way back to the teleshopping ads, compare the new with the old. Just show them a pain. Try to find a pain that relates to your customer and show them how you're improving it. So now we have our tracking in place. We have awesome content. How are we going to show it to our customers?
And then we get to the third pillar, being at the forefront of performance marketing. We need people to actually see the content that we just created. And here you can see a handful of the channels that we're using for our marketing. We have more, but for the sake of example, we put them here. Our performance marketing can be roughly divided up into 3 different buckets. The first one is kind of our champion bucket. There's just a few channels there that drive a lot of revenue and take a large chunk of our marketing budget. And the goal for these channels is to make sure that we increase their efficiency every day, that we increase the revenue that they're bringing in every day. And we do this by testing. We test a lot. We test landing pages, audiences, ad copy, and especially creatives. I think on what Oliver just said, around 20% of our budget, overall marketing budget, is going to testing, out of which 70% is going to testing the creatives that Oliver just showed you. Then we have the second bucket, the rough diamonds. This is a bucket in which we have many small channels that drive low revenue and are not very scalable for us. But if you combine them, they actually make up a nice chunk of our overall revenue. And the goal of this bucket is to diversify, because we don't want to become too reliant on Meta, Google. And also, we want to just switch up our marketing mix here and there a bit. And the goal is to get these channels into bucket 1. And then we have the new channels. If there's a new channel, we always test it. You never know whether it's going to work for you. And most of the time, it's also quite riskless. CPMs are quite low. There's not that much competition. and therefore the cost of advertising is also low. So good to always test it. And the goal is to get these channels into bucket 2, the rough diamonds. The point I'm trying to make is it's going to be very hard for you to get these channels to work for you, but you also cannot miss out on them. Because any of these channels here, and also the other hundreds that are out there, can be your black horse that gives you that edge over your competition. So now, we have our tracking in place. We have our content in place. We are making sure that people are seeing it via performance marketing. And then we move on to our last pillar.
Closing great partnerships. Now, this pillar may not be the biggest revenue driver of the 4, but it's definitely at the core of the other 3 that we just discussed. The reason being, we send out about 50 products per week to different content creators. They're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, and what they bring to us is a ton of content. And as you guys know, content is king. So this content is now being used in our ads, on our website, on social media, and it gives a certain sense of social proof. On top of that, what we noticed is not usually the categories that you think are going to work are the successful ones. A great example is Shea Whitney on the screen up there. She's one of our best influencers so far. She's performed super well with her videos. And we didn't know why at the beginning, because usually we were just targeting male influencers with a male audience. However, her audience was 100% female, and they were all purchasing for their partners. Completely unexpected, but worked like crazy. So ever since that, we took this shotgun approach, just trying different categories. We went from mini golf to NASCAR to whatever you can imagine, and in the strangest corners, there were successful categories. And lastly, another great example from Shay. She received the wallet, and she genuinely loved the product. She initially gave it to her husband, but stole it back, and you could see this in her videos. She was selling it with her soul. And we've seen this with other creators as well. If a creator really loves the product, it's going to sell better. Now, this next partnership is one that we're particularly proud of. We closed a partnership with the Messi store in December, during the World Cup. The timing couldn't have been better. And the effect on our brand was immeasurable, at least on the brand awareness and on the brand value side. However, the revenue, unexpectedly low. And this is actually good learning for if you're working with high-tier partnerships. Keep in mind that if the more followers they have, doesn't necessarily mean the more revenue it's going to bring you. Now, looking at these 4 pillars, we know it's not easy to enter a new market. We also know it's not easy to conquer the US. And we have had our fair share of luck. But we think that with relentless tracking, content, good performance strategy, and great partnerships, it will make your life just a little bit easier, and it's going to help you increase your opportunity. On top of that, I want to thank our hardworking team who are always pushing boundaries, always staying curious to take Ekster to the next level. And my 2 co-founders in the back over there, Richard and Rick. Thank you so much. We wouldn't have been here without you. A little closing word.
Yeah, so maybe interesting for you to know, because maybe you're thinking, yeah, okay, we can close Messi and we can do all these testing with all these performance marketing channels, but we actually don't have any outside investment. So we started off with the Kickstarter, then kind of grew organically, reinvesting all the funds that we had. So this strategy can kind of work even if you don't have an outside investment. And secondly, what's also maybe interesting for you to know is that we are kind of scaling in the United States. We don't have anyone working for us over there. So it's still Europe. So it is possible to conquer another market without physically being there or without physically having people there. Our next goal is to expand into Europe, see whether we can also conquer some part of the market here. And luckily, we're in a room full of experts and professionals that know a lot about the French market and hopefully also the European market. So our question to you is, will you be able to help us with scaling into Europe? And if so, we would love to connect with you. If you have any more questions about the US, if we can help you, then feel free to come up to us. We're going to be around, and feel free to connect. And thanks so much. It was a great pleasure to do this, and see you at the bar. Thank you.